A pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Glad to join you on another edition. In a good mood. Been a good week, and it's always a good Saturday to talk to you, especially coming off of a victory, broadcast live last week from Jackson, Mississippi, Southern University over Jackson State, 40-34 in front of 40,085 fans. I'm going to give you some takes from the Southern University victory. It's always good to be victorious, and to be honest with you, it's been a while. Since 2012? That Southern has lost to Jackson State? Or is it 2013? 2012, 2013. 2012 sounds better. But you get my drift. It's been a while, and it was just quite simply a game of two halves. Fireworks before the game, after the game, during the game. We'll talk about it here on the Carlos Brown Show. This week's edition, guest menu looks like this. In hour number one, he's the director of athletics at Southern University, Coach Roman Banks. He'll join me. We've got some things to talk about. One being the 2020 football schedule. And by the way, for institutions in this conference that are releasing their schedule early, kudos to you. We'll have some conversation, or at least a segment of some of these, schedules besides Southern University. I'm sure in our number two, future football schedule, as much information as I can get from Coach Banks. But we'll join him at about 10:30, talking about that and other information and other takes with Coach Roman Banks. Then in hour number two, the usual guest, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, will join me live from the city I was just in last week, Jackson, Mississippi, the capital. Alcorn State and Jackson State in the Soul Bowl. Coming up at 2 p.m. today, he'll join me. And then following Charles Edmond will be Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. I know Brandon is probably getting some rest this week. Next week, he will come down to New Orleans, probably Thursday, knowing BJ, the annual Bayou Classic. And also, I'll visit with Dr. Michael Prince, get his take on what's going on in the conference, and I'm sure we'll agree on some things and we'll agree to disagree. Last week, we had an interesting discussion about the MVP of the league as far as between Glass and Harper. And I heard from you. I know Harper outdueled Glass last Saturday. And boy, even talking about the game, but you can't talk about just that one game. It has to be the body of work. But you Alcorn fans, let me know. You believe in Harper, and hey, kudos to both Glass and Harper. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Got a few notes for you. Ashley Robinson, the director of athletics at Jackson State University. This is courtesy of JSUsports.com. He has signed a contract extension. Ashley is in Jackson for at least 3 more years. Southern University in basketball dropped a 93-86 overtime game to the University of Nebraska, led by Michael Bradford, 31 points. Could this Southern University basketball team on the men's side be much better than last year? Can Coach Woods get this team ready? We shall see. It's still early in non-conference. And then finally, the high school I graduated from, Capital Senior High. They've had a rough time the last few years, 5+ years. On the academic side, athletic side, but in high school football, Louisiana High School Athletic Association in 2A quarterfinals. That's 2 in a row for my high school alma mater, Capital Senior High, a 38-34 victory over Lakeside. The Capital Lions move on. And after the season's over with, we'll try to get Coach Buckles on the show. I think that would be an outstanding tribute to Capital Senior High School. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown show. Southern University over Jackson State 40-34, 40,085 with the attendance. And it seemed to be a little bit more to me, but we'll go with the official attendance. Some just tidbits from that game. Beautiful weather, crisp, cool, in the 40s for the football game, and the fireworks started early. I've come to realize that, and I've said it before, but the Southern University and Jackson State fan base, they get after each other. They don't like each other. And apparently it spreads from there. Pre-game warm-ups, almost a fist of cups started, almost happened. A lot of jaw-jacking going on. You see that a lot, college football nowadays. But cooler heads prevail. We'll put it that way. Also, the halftime activities. Wow. The bands even go at each other. It's even before they get to halftime. It's a battle in the stands. And then I noticed after the game, no handshake between the teams. And I wonder if it was because of what went on before the game. Cautionary measures were in place that, hey, let's just go to the locker room. The game itself, Jackson State leading at the half, 24-17. They come with two big scores right before the half. Southern University's number one rush defense in the conference. Wow. They were gashed. 308 yards. You'd have told me that before the game, I would have been like, no way, no way. And here's the thing. Sometimes your run defense or your defense, they have a bad game. And then in the back of my mind, it was always this. The Southern have enough offense. If their defense, and specifically we're talking about run defense, they have an off game, does the offense have enough to make up for that? Well, apparently they did, but Southern gave up 532 yards of total defense. Offensively, rushing, Southern 264, Jackson State 308. Net yards passing, Southern 133, 12 of 24 in passing, one touchdown for 133 yards. Jackson State 224. Total yards, Jackson State 532 on 78 plays. They averaged 6.8 yards per play. The Jaguars 397. They ran 64 plays. Average per play 6.2. Interesting. Individual stand base. Jalen Jones, he was 16 of 30 for 224 yards passing. He rushed for 105. And Keyshawn Harper, boy, he really had a big first half. But he finished with 208 yards. Skelton, 21 carries, 171 yards, an 8.1 yard average. And he was co-offensive MVP in the conference. As far as receiving, Hunter registered 3 receptions for 66 yards. So the Jaguars, they get it done. They run their record at this point now to 7-4 overall, 5-1 in conference play. And now it sets up no football game today, but they'll be watching that Jackson State and the Alcorn State game. Let me bring in Dr. Michael Prince. Dr. Prince, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing fine. After Jackson State and Southern football game and Southern University is able to be victorious once again, I'm a happy camper.
Well, I could hear that, man, in your introduction and stuff. You're sounding all chipper, and if you allow me to say, you sound like Mr. Rogers today.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Well, it is a beautiful day, although crisp and temperatures falling here in Studio B in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But you got to be happy because in spite of, and I've already got some text messages that I'm going to read, you still have, if you're a Southern fan, Southern alum, the goal that you set forth in the beginning of the season, you still have an opportunity this late to achieve that goal.
Yes.
And so does Alcorn State. They're in the SWAC championship game.
Right.
But why Southern fans and Grambling State to a certain extent are going to be looking in Jackson, Mississippi today, with a win by Alcorn today, they basically wrap up. They host
right
the SWAC football championship back on the reservation. The fireworks, the chant,
the smoke
that will stay in your ear. Yeah, who wants that smoke? But if they slip, and Jackson State is able to take care of this ball game, then the win of the Bayou Classic basically gets to host.
So could I hear in the midst of all of that you're going to be secretly rooting for Jackson State today?
Oh no, it won't be secretly. If I'm going to come out and pull for them, I'm going to do it publicly. I'll do it right now.
Well, I'm going to FedEx you. I'm going to FedEx you a JSU T-shirt and cap that you must wear during the game.
Well, that won't be necessary. that won't be necessary. Come on now. Do you want me to be fired from the street committee?
Well, I'm just saying. You said you're going to be
my life to be in jeopardy.
You said you was going to publicly do it. So I mean, if you're going to do it right.
No, do it without the shirt and the hat. How about that? We can do the cross sign. We can do the prayer sign. We can do the chant.
Oh, my.
But now, do I feel that Jackson State has an opportunity, a chance to upset Alcorn State? There's on any given Saturday. You know, the situation where you say your heart feels one way, but your head is saying, no, don't listen to your heart.
Yeah. You know, that reminds me of an OJ song. Your mind is here with me, but your body's on the other side of town.
Yeah, that song almost got me in trouble back in the day.
Man. But, we're off to a great start already, aren't we?
Yeah. Let me quickly move back to the JSU Alcorn game.
Oh, my goodness.
But SWAC fans will be very interested in that ball game. Let me ask you, does JSU have an opportunity? Do you think they've got a chance? It's a better way to put it.
Well, you always have a chance when you show up. And looking at the magical year that Jackson State had, I mean, let's be honest, they were nowhere in the midst of conversation of competing for the East until they got on a little 3-game roll that had to deal with my beloved Panthers in the midst of that. If I were to flat out say who would win, I would have to say Alcorn.
They'd be favorite.
They would be favorite, and I think that's the safest bet. But when you look at how this season has gone, nothing would surprise me. And if I went on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the greatest opportunity of Jackson State winning today, they might not like what I'm about to say, but I'd give them about a 4.5, 5.
Well, Jalen Jones showed to me last week that he has improved, and some of the commentary after the game, during the game, listening to the replay, Jackson State seems to have the problem of playing one half of football.
Right.
And in the second half, they were outscored 23-10 by Southern University. Southern gashed in the run game, their run defense, but they were able to get a hold of it in the second half. So with that being said, Jackson State hoping that they will finally put together a complete game, 60 minutes.
Right. Well, the ironic thing for me, when I looked at that, and I know that Jalen Jones is the fan favorite, he's the more athletic, but I was thinking that Ponder would have probably had more success against you guys secondary.
Well, now he did throw for 224, and once again, I've come to the realization, and I watched closely again. Coach Odoms, he loves to be involved in that on the defensive side. I guess it's just in his nature.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, the struggles, it's just going to be a struggle. To be honest with you, the rest of the games played this year, especially if, and they were able to finally get some sacks, some pressures. You don't necessarily have to get sacks all the time.
Right.
But I think, some hurry, some pressures would help. But I'll just be honest. It's just something that Southern's going to have to deal with. And I understand, injuries and not the projected starters, but hopefully they'll be able to do something to help themselves out. And I will say this. Last week I said Southern had faced the top two passers, arguably, the previous couple of weeks. You throw in Martin, who was very successful against Southern University, and you would like to say that was it as far as facing, for the regular season, a quarterback that can really torch you. But the way it is now, you can't take anything for granted. They're going to have to come up with a complete game plan against Grambling State next Saturday in the Bayou Classic.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And I know you're not going to see it because sometimes those glasses get tainted, just like all our glasses get tainted.
Oh, there you go. You're throwing another shot there.
No. That was just a jab. That wasn't a shot. That was more of a jab. But in all seriousness, I believe Grambling comes in this game looser than Southern. They're playing with house money. They were dead men walking. And all the pressure is on you guys.
See, I think it's pressure equally yoked, both.
Okay.
Explain how. What a six. Well, if they lose all what they've done in that winning streak, it goes for naught if they lose. For Southern, had high expectations. Now, Grambling was picked third, correct?
Yes. And
so, but with that winning streak, and then with the magnitude of the Bayou Classic, it doesn't matter if they both came in with no wins. It's still going to be the Bayou Classic.
No doubt.
But what's at stake? Winning the Western Division. So I think it's pressure that goes both ways. Now, if you want to say, well, one was picked to win the West and one was picked to come in third, well, who had high expectations?
Mm-hmm.
According to the prognosticators, Southern University. But as Grambling State is going on this winning streak and they are hot as a pistol, Southern on a winning streak as well, except for the loss to Alcorn State, I just think it's both teams have a lot at stake.
Now, removing the blue and gold glasses just for a moment, and if you didn't have a pick in the race, who do you think is the hottest or the most streakiest team coming into this game between the two?
Grambling State, because they're on the 6-game winning streak.
They're on a 6-game winning streak. They're peaking at the right time. And I'm wondering if Southern peaked early or have they peaked yet at all? Because you and I both know. I
don't think they peaked at all.
Their nemesis right now is trying to stop the run, and that sounds surprising. Talking about a Southern defense that's struggling against the run under the leadership of Odoms.
Now they were number one in the conference, and they probably still number one, but they had a off Saturday. They were gashed by Jackson State.
Right.
And I'll pat myself on the back. I remember early in the season, even before they were on that loser streak, Grambling State, no one's talking about Grambling State. They buried them for dead. I've been consistently saying, watch out for Grambling State University. Oh, yes, sir. We can go back and listen to the tape.
We can't listen to the tape. And I said don't lie sleep on them neither now.
Well, we'll put you down as well.
Oh, I'm just saying, you just trying to take all the glory and the credit, man.
No, I said I. I didn't say you didn't. I said I. I said, and they started off what 0-4.
Yes, but you know
and
what threw it
haven't
off?
Lost since then.
What threw it off, as far as I think people really paying attention, those two non-conference games they played. Because even though it's part of the streak, it kind of changed the overall record and perception that they were actually getting better. You know what I mean? Because it didn't show up in the conference column.
Interesting.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting a message here right now.
Somebody being ugly.
No, somebody says, I really thought we were friends. You're pulling for JSU? Wow. Now, wait a minute. I
that must be an Alcorn night responded to.
Yeah, I said if I was a better man and I'm not, I said Alcorn is his favorite.
Right.
Can Jackson State get it done today?
Now look, Alcorn Nation, y'all gotta realize that the brother does love his Jag Nation. You can't blame him. And
number one.
Yeah, any other time, Alcorn is still his second favorite team in the conference. We already know that.
And you know what? Speaking of that, somebody said, "Well, your second favorite. Who is it?
Who
is it? Southern?
Who mine?
Yeah.
No, I'm my second.
Oh, come on, Dr. Prince. You love yourself some Coach Odoms.
I love some Coach Odoms.
But you don't like Southern. Well,
that don't mean that I'm
separate the two.
It's easy. That's easy.
Oh,
that's just like Bill Belichick.
My.
Bill Belichick is one heck of a coach, but I don't like him when he's coaching the Patriots. You know what I'm saying? I mean that's easy. That's a no-brainer. To be honest with you, you know what? That's a good question. Who would be my alternative SWAC school?
I think I know.
Well, you said Southern already.
I just listening to you.
You know what? Believe it or not, man, I have a soft spot in my heart for Mississippi Valley. I really do. And maybe it's because...
Is that because you feel sorry for them?
And see, it's hard to feel sorry for grown folk. But
I mean, the situation, they haven't improved, the situation.
But you root for them because you know what they're up against. You know what I mean?
Is it the underdog syndrome?
Yeah, I think it's more of the underdog deal. Come on, Valley, y'all can get this. And I especially root for them when they play out of conference. Man, I thought they had Lamar this year, and it was a heartbreaker, but it boiled down to special teams playing in overtime. But you root for the Valley, man. At least I do.
Well, I think some people will always kind of pull for the underdog unless it's their specific team.
Right.
And in this situation, I did say everybody's going to be watching. Eyes and attention is going to be in Jackson because, Southern fans, they're going to be pulling for Jackson State to pull the upset. But then they have to take care of the business next week. Then you have a chance to host.
True.
That's a lot of money if you could host and then win that championship game.
Absolutely.
And then you go into the Celebration Bowl. So just sue me. I'm Reverend Cash and Reverend Ty, all in one, rolled up.
Here.
As Reverend Ike said, the lack of money is the root of all evil. So everybody, if you're in that situation, you want that to happen. But if it doesn't, then the winner of the Bayou Classic still will represent the West. Then, if Southern wins, Alcorn wins, well, it's round 2 in Lorman, Mississippi. And if Southern, it'll be the still same situation. You got to go in there and try to get it done.
Right. Now, I tell you something else, too, and they might not, and I know Alcorn is listening to this show.
Oh, they're good folks.
Oh, they're good. They're very good folks. Some of the most solid people on the face of the earth. But I guarantee you this: they would rather see you all than Grambling.
I wonder why. Would it happen to be that they have a great record against Southern University at this point?
Yeah, you're saying 9-1, but it's actually 10-1.
Now, okay, 10-1. Grambling State, and some of them have expressed that concern. They were telling me that they've struggled beating Grambling in the hole.
Right.
At Grambling. So I can understand that. You're not trying to pull wool over my eyes. I mean, I understand it is what it is. But if it happens to be Southern at Alcorn for the championship again, I expect Southern to go in there and take care of business.
But you're talking about the lesser,
whether they do it or not,
the lesser of two evils. Grambling and Southern are going to be rooting for Jackson this weekend.
Yeah, because we've just stated it.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
that's just the way it is.
Well, look, maybe there is a God.
You want to play at home or you want to go on the road? What's the best chances for you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
At home.
Wow.
So that's going to be an interesting ball game. We'll talk with Charles Edmond in hour number 2. I'm sure he's going to be. Well, I'm concerned.
Oh, you know how Charles goes. You know how Charles goes. He plays it down, and he be churning. I call that's our big guy. That's our big guy, and he gonna try to be straight down the middle. But you know how Charles get.
Yeah, and I'm concerned. I met a listener last week. I'll just give his first name out, Desmond in Jackson, and we had a great conversation over some dinner. And he basically said, "Well, yeah, Carlos,
did he treat you? Did he treat you?
No.
Oh, Desmond, come on, man!
But he treated me. He treated me with
love,
outstanding conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Great job, Desmond.
And that's the way you want it. And he said, "Yeah, Carlos, I think you have been tough on Odoms, but that's you, and that's the way you are. As far as I know, you're still blue and gold all the way through, but." That's the fan part of me. The sports talk host, you have to be true to yourself.
Well, you have to be true to yourself, and you have to be true to the facts. And
you try to be fair and give the facts and give opinions where necessary.
Right.
And opinion is just that, and sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right on your opinions, but I do know this. It has been a very interesting season in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. You also have some big games in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman's had their number lately in the Florida
Well, they have.
Classic.
They have.
North Carolina Central, first-year coach Trey Oliver, they've struggled. First year, they take on North Carolina A&T. South Carolina State basically has a slim outside chance. So, and also with schedules being released, Southern a couple of weeks ago. In a few minutes, we're going to talk with Coach Banks about that schedule. Then Prairie View's released their schedule this week. Texas Southern and Alcorn State, and a lot of conversation on social media about Alcorn State's schedule.
Yeah, man, they got a little chippy on that one, brother.
But in the overall blueprint and conversation about how the MEAC is getting it done, the SWAC, let me just say this. I would not be a hypocrite, a hypocritical hypocrite, in all caps, if I would take a shot at Alcorn State schedule, and neither you, Dr. Prince, because you looked at that schedule this year, Edward Waters, Virginia Lynchburg.
Yeah.
Now Alcorn is playing Virginia Lynchburg next year.
And Fort.
And they start Palmer. Now, what as a conference and talking with Charles Edmond about this, he interviewed the commissioner and he doesn't particularly like the scheduling, but what can he do about it?
Fine them.
He can't. Well, he can't mandate.
No, but you can fine them.
Well. Will he have the votes to be able to do that? Will that legislation pass?
If you're talking about raising the standard,
because we're all guilty of doing that.
Yeah, we're guilty of doing it. But once again, to encourage that you don't do it as often. Okay, if you slip one in, okay, maybe, but then 2 of them in a season. That's to me, that's an insult on the intellect of your fan base, your season ticket holders, and your player experience. We talk about giving these kids the ultimate student athlete experience. You're not giving them that when you're playing at Edward Waters or Virginia Lynchburg. I'm sorry.
Now, by the same token, I don't care for playing up either.
Well, I did a show one day this week, and to me, if I'm an AD or president, and you can pick your poison, I'm going one Ohio Valley school, one Southland school, and another regional FBS that I deem winnable. At least gives me a fighter chance to win that game. And those are going to be my schedules throughout, or the formulation for my success. There is no need. I would rather, instead of me going to play at LSU or Texas A&M, I would rather that they sponsor a game between us and another opponent that we play at their field, and they give each one of us $150,000, $200,000 and send us back home.
Well, Coach Banks coming up in a matter of minutes. I like Southern's 2020 football schedule. That is almost, you can say, perfect, but you don't like to say perfect.
Right.
If you look at it.
And for the record,
I think it comes down to how the AD wants to address each individual AD. If you want to play up, you have the right to do so. But now, maybe we need to ask Dr. McClellan in the future about maybe, as you stated, fining, placing a fine on teams that play like a Virginia Lynchburg. Well, what about a Tuskegee? What about a Bowie State?
A Bowie State, or that's what I'm saying, that's that exceptional year, but in our position, we got more to lose than we do gain playing that game.
Or you can schedule more, and I know the thing going to be cost. Why not play more Southland teams or some MEAC teams that are equally yoked?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, we always talk about cost, but if the truth be told, you got to go out there and hustle your costs. And this is still a business. This is still a business. It's not assistant aid, government aid. You got to go out there and create the money by creating favorable matchups, by creating marketing approaches that go beyond the old norm. Okay, we're going to build a schedule. Hopefully alumni come and hopefully students come. You got to go out there and create the buzz. And you got to start marketing. Just like they let the schedule out right now, I guarantee you that they won't do any type of marketing until the week of the 2 weeks before the season starts about get your season tickets and all that. You need to be marketing that thing right now. Right now.
Well, on that note, I'm going to take a time out.
Yes, sir.
When I come back, going to visit with the Director of Athletics at Southern University, Coach Roman Banks. And if you want to weigh in, what do you think about the scheduling so far in the conference by some of the institutions in the Southwestern Athletic Conference? There are still more institutions that will release their schedule. Should an institution be fined? Let me back up. Be fined if they don't accept or they're not up to the standard. What is that standard? Don't play any schools in the IA, Division II. Should they only play non-conference FCS members? Interesting. But Coach Roman Banks joins me next here on the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Coach Banks, back in a moment.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more, and we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most. like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Appreciate you listening in on a Saturday morning here. And now I'm going to visit with the Director of Athletics at Southern University. He's still coach to me, Coach Roman Banks. Coach Banks, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. I appreciate the time, and I was able to get you before all of the festivities starting Monday, I guess, for the Bayou class.
All the festivities start for the fans on Monday, start for me early this week.
Yeah, okay. I understand. In other words, you're a busy, busy guy. When will it slow down for you?
Actually, in doing the job of being a director of athletics at any university, I learned as I have grown into this position that, when you're trying to do the right things and trying to invest into the student athletes, the coaches and all that, it really doesn't slow down. I would say around May, but that's a lot of conferences, that you're going to for certification. You're on committees for the NCAA and different things. So that still keep you pretty busy within itself, but it's definitely a year-round job.
I could understand that, and I could sympathize with it. In other words, it's 365 days of the year, especially being director of athletics at the university and such as Southern University. Well, Coach, the 2020 football schedule has arrived, been announced for Southern University, and I'll just say, just talking with a few people, they really appreciate this schedule, and I tell you what, it's an attractive schedule. Your thoughts on putting that schedule together and how hard was it, or if it was even hard putting it together?
Oh no, it's real difficult because in inheriting the position, you got to realize a lot of games are scheduled 3 to 5 years out. We went through a 7-game schedule, 8-game schedule, back to 7, 8, back and forth with the conference. And so the schedule changed quite a bit. And I inherited a schedule that really couldn't have too many changes as related to the conference schedule, how many games we had to play, who we was playing, and some of the contracts that was done early on that causes us to kind of find ways to make it tough to even get 4 home games in some instances where we had to, bring in some smaller schools just to make sure that we can have at least 4 home contests. But, I told you going forward, the schedule model that I like would try to play some classic games, bring some old rivalries back, and also trying to be sound with the budget, generate money that we need in our athletic budget for the fiscal year, going into the fiscal year, not necessarily making money out of the games. And so that's a tough combination when you're at all levels. And so I also, spoke and I talked about getting the 5 games, 5-4, 5-4. And that's pretty hard to do, get the 5 games at all levels when you have to play game guarantees and such like we do. So in some cases, I'm trying to change out 1 big game for, instead of playing 2 small games, if I can get the person 1 big game and make sure the teams are taken care of and done my responsibility for the university financially. And so, it's a tough space to be in. But I think that I'm very pleased with this schedule. We got to 5 games, and my hopes is, I don't know, traditionally, will we be able to be 5 every year? I like to get to that point, but we traded off some games so I can get to it this year. We're going to have to inherit some games back. So, I like to get to the point where it's 5 every year, but at least 5-4, 5-4.
Visiting with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Detroit Classic, Tennessee State. This is a classic. Correct me if I'm wrong. They used to have it years ago, but now it'll be its first year back for 2020. How was the negotiation for that one? Tennessee State's been on Southern schedule and on a regular basis in the past, but now playing them in Detroit. And then I'm going to come back and ask you about Texas Southern again, playing in Arlington. And people have been asking, is it going to be at a different stadium this time? Instead of where it had been previously been played in the Cotton Bowl.
Let me address the Arlington for you first, so we can be clear. Is that we have not, as of to date, we have not come up with a new venue. There have been conversations about how, as it relates to the state fair, how it needs to be improved, the pros and the cons, and maybe someone else buying it and trying to invest into it in a different area in Dallas. I know that Texas Southern schedule had on there Arlington, and I know that I've been in conversations with Arlington themselves about Southern playing the game there down the line as well. So I want to be crystal clear is that there won't be a decision made probably for another couple of weeks. And as of right now, the State Fair has a right to the game. So I can't speak too much of that as it talks about moving that game as of right now, because first of all, the State Fair and the promoter is not basically myself and Granger at Texas Southern, but the promoter and the State Fair basically had that call as well before we go any further.
So if someone is listening right now or asks, as of now, it's still State Fair in the Cotton Bowl.
On my schedule, it reflects Dallas, but stay close, stay in tune, because it's Dallas, but there's a possibility in the next 2 or 3 weeks that we will be talking about a change of location if that happens.
Okay, well, you heard it here, and eyes will be watching and ears will be listening, and I'm sure it'll get out quickly when it happens.
No question about it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Detroit Classic, Tennessee State.
So it kind of, I don't know if somebody knew it, but I've been talking to Tennessee State, talking to North Carolina Central, A&T, some schools that I think will create that excitement. Like I told you, I think that those challenges of us bringing back historical Black college games like a fam game is very good, not just for the two schools, but it's good to bring in historical Black college football. And we're going to have to do those type of games and generate that type of crowd so we can keep our presence, because we can't keep having games and classics of 8,000 and 10,000 people. So these games on our campus or classics going to have to show up in numbers so we can bring attention back to historical Black college football. And so I always been in some conversations with Tennessee State since I've taken over and started talking about what our schedule should look like. And Detroit was bringing a game back. And so, for travel down and distance, it get pretty tough when you start talking about those type of games and a home and home or where you're going to meet at. And so I think that Detroit Classic, the promoter, did a good job, but knew that we was in conversations. I think that we bring attention to that area. We haven't been there in a long time. I think they bring attention to that area. I think our demographics in Detroit been asking for that type of game. They have shown good support by the numbers that they showed me earlier. And so I think they want to bring that classic back. And I think that they know that we have a great following. So we always probably going to be contacted when you start talking about bringing the classic back And then I think that they had a great following, or they think they have potential following with Tennessee State as well, that led us, because we was in conversation, to say, okay, this could be a good game for us.
So financially for Southern University, it's worth the trip to Detroit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, that's part of it. When you talk about playing in a classic, you start talking about Dallas. So my position is whether 10 people show up, 100,000 people show up, my job is to put it in contract, make sure it's, that all money is guaranteed, making sure when we travel and how we travel that at the end of the day, it's financially sound for the formula that we're trying to create for Southern University's campus as it relates to all business for athletics. And so, yeah, I'm very pleased with the contract.
Okay.
To make it sense for us. So we good with that. I mean, we know what we got. It fit into the dynamics of our budget. So we're excited about the opportunity.
And possibly you can see Southern in this classic again down the line, correct?
Possibly so. I think, I think as our reputation of traveling and also having a good football program, I mean, anytime you talk about classic, you want to make sure not only historical speak for itself, but what are you doing now? You got to put a pretty good product on the field that you know that your fans going to travel and that people want to see, and then you build a band and everything around it. And so I think that Southern will always have that type of attraction to classics. And it's just they say that I'm a hard negotiator. It's just them making sure that they can deal with the terms, and we can compromise with the terms of what I expect Southern should be getting and how we should be represented.
Visiting with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Coach Banks, if you can, a few months ago, I don't want to say weeks, but it may be months ago, the talk of a potential LSU game. Can you provide us with an update on where you're at with that negotiation of that game?
Yeah, we're still crunching. We haven't signed the initial contract yet because we're still crunching numbers and going back and forth on some things around the game, because I do feel like that our game with them potentially, when you start talking about just people being on that campus and tailgating, I think that's a revenue source that's going to go to a whole nother level, even though they have their own structure and do very well. And so just making sure that we get everything out of it that I think Southern deserves, and they are good with that as it relates. When I say their athletic administration can agree with me, and we're good, and we can close out these things that we still are going back and forth on. I think it's going to be a great game. I know our student athletes are excited about it. I often say a lot of times, and I know some people how they feel about LSU and all that. And then we got a lot of people supporting. But at the end of the day, our student athletes have a right, and they feel good about it because we're one of the few schools in this state that haven't played them. And I want people to be mindful that all student athletes see things on social media and things like that. And so to say that almost to put out there that we're going to get our butt whooped or we're going to get kids hurt, we're a Division I program. And so don't underestimate being a Division I program. I know they're a high major program, but we have the right to go out there. We went to Memphis. We surprised people a lot in Memphis. So we need, for recruiting purposes, to play some of these games. I won't say a lot of these games, but we need to have a attractive schedule with some names on there every once in a while where Coach Odom can go in, and these kids that think they belong at LSU, we can say, well, prove yourself by coming to help us beat these people. And so don't downrate by saying the expectation we're going to get drummed and we're going to get beat. McNeese went in there one year and almost beat them. And I think that we just as good our program needs to be just as good as McNeese. And so let's be mindful. Don't tear down our situation where Coach Odom's now still got to go in these recruits' homes and talk about that. And we already saying basically that we're not good enough. We are a Division I program. And for that concern, my challenge to the coaches and to our administration that we want to grow ourselves. We want to be one of the top programs in this state eventually. And so these are the things that we need to be mindful of how we market ourselves and how we're talking, because our student athletes had a conversation with a couple of them when I first announced it. Coach, our own fans don't believe in us. You know, so you have to be careful. And these guys, you know, these are challenges. When I was an athlete, we wanted to play these type of schools. And so we know that they're at a supposed to be a major university, but we still need to be able to think we can go in there with a good team, a senior type team, and have a chance. I mean, you see schools popping up beating these people sometimes. So I think we can go in there and represent ourselves well, and I think it'll be good not only for that, but for this state and for this city of Baton Rouge as well.
Visiting with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University, giving us an update on the LSU game. So keep listening and watching. Hopefully, pretty soon, maybe the first of the year, end of the year, first of the year.
Yeah. So right now, to be honest with you, you know, they're rolling pretty much. We're in Bayou class that we embarking on, hopefully being in a championship game. So when it's all over here after these bowl games, we probably will go ahead and concentrate and finish it on out, because we do want to move forward. And so it's in pencil, but we want to go ahead and put it in ink.
Boy, now my mind's getting very creative. I love to see some basketball games played between them, and a three-game weekend series with the baseball team. But another topic for another day, I guess.
Right. Well, you know, we want to play them. Our basketball, that's next. You know, I got all our teams would like those challenges, and you know, you got to be mindful of they know when, you know, they'll schedule us. Some of these we have played them in some sports, and some years they just won't schedule us because we would have challenged them in certain areas in other sports, and so we are mindful of that as well. But we like to get in something with them long term with some of our other sports as well, because we do think that we have the opportunity and some other sports such as baseball, like we done in other sports. So what I'm saying is we are capable, and as we continue to grow our teams and get better, take our recruitment to another level, you know, help create some new areas in our facilities that be friendly for student athletes and recruiting. We think we're going to continue to get better. So that's what we after. I mean, you talk about LSU, and then you talk about probably Louisiana Tech and Lafayette and Tulane. Why we can't be the next best school? And that's what we after.
Coach Banks, I'm going to try to combine. I got a couple other points I want to discuss with you. Let me ask you this. With the SWAC 10-year master schedule, boy, I'd love to get a look at it. Is it now you'll be able to, because you know about the conference master schedule, would it make scheduling non-conference games in the future easier?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you got a plan out there, and that's what, you know, our commissioner has done a great job, and that's what we've been talking about. And when you got a long-term plan out there, then we could do a much better job, because football scheduling is I say 3 to 5 years, but, you know, in most cases is 5 to 7 years out. And so it's important for us more than anything to try to get that non-conference formula. If we only have 3 games to deal with, if, you know, it's important for us to get the right formula and know what we're looking at in advance, so we can get to 5 games on our campuses. You know, some years I know it may just be tough, but to kind of get consistent at that. So we need a draft to look at. Now, you know, every 5 years that draft can go in and we look at it and it can be altered, but at least you know that you have a plan in place and you're communicating with the conference office and putting those games in that can go in and be locked in. So there ain't no question about it that our commissioner, Charles, has done a great job. And I think by him being on campus and being a part, athletic director on campus and being a part of this league for a long time, these are the things that he understood that had to be some changes. We just couldn't keep going from year to year, and then we couldn't just keep going talking about, you know, we don't know what championship game at. I mean, there's got to be some planning, so you can plan, and then when you start planning, you can market it. And so he's done a good job at that, and he's going to continue. We're not quite there yet, but all our processes, if you follow the SWAC office in these campuses, we are much ahead of the game than we were.
Visiting with Coach Roman Banks, the Director of Athletics at Southern University. I'm going to try to pick out a question or two here from a listener. New football uniforms, Coach. Can't read the numbers. Will there be an adjustment with uniforms? I'm assuming he's talking about, new football uniforms.
Yeah, he's talking about uniforms, because I sit there talking about what number is that? And so, as it relates to these uniforms, there are a lot of challenges, not just with us, but when the uniform come in and from afar, it looks a little different. And so we realize that, and, those are always topics of conversation about sizes and dimensions that's set for by the NCAA, where the logos need to be. So we have to follow that formula. But yeah, we'd like to get our numbers a little, I would like for them to be a little cleaner. And so we know that's one of the things that we'll be after now. We just can't say that we're going to throw those uniforms away. We don't have it like that. But certainly we may, as we put uniforms in rotation and get a new one, a new one here next year, 2 new ones or whatever, we still leave those in rotation. So, yeah, I think with our new uniforms, that's something that we know that we need to, with the companies, make sure that our font and everything, our letter style, we can see it much clearer, because, we all, when I'm looking at the game, what number was that? Who was that? It makes it tough on the PA announcers and all that. So that's something we need to rectify.
And Coach, how expensive is it to, I know at one time years ago, they would have the names on the jersey. Is that really something that you won't see at Southern again?
So,
is it really expensive?
I mean, it's expensive. It's expensive, but also not just talking from expensive. I give coaches the autonomy how they feel about their program, because some coaches, don't like names, and they philosophy, we won, so we're gonna put nothing on there, and we just Southern. So it's a lot of different things behind the madness of why not just dollars if that name not out there. And so that's a conversation that for each particular sport is different. And so I just can't holistically say it from a departmental standpoint, but I will say it like this. I give each coach the autonomy within our policy as it relates to colors and stuff like that. And Derek does a good job working with each coach to create these uniforms, Derek and Rodney.
Visiting with Coach Roman Banks.
And obviously,
athletics at Southern University. Go ahead, Coach.
Not to cut you off, but obviously you've seen that we always been in the top 10 of uniforms. So they're doing a good job. I mean, Derek does a good job. I think we was in the top 2 or 3 this past season as it relates to design. So when they put that publication out, so I think we got people that's got a very good eye. They always at the conferences seeing what's the next new style. And meeting with those coaches to make sure it fit those coaches' styles, as well as a nice uniform to represent us in our particular sports.
Coach, if you could weigh in on this one, and we'll hold you for about 4 or 5 more minutes, and we appreciate the time. As I said earlier, a lot of the feedback I got for Southern University's 2020 schedule, they love it. They love it. Some other institutions in the conference have released their schedule, and on social media, those words again, social media, even in the first hour of this show, before you came on, the Virginia Lynchburgs, the Edward Waters, I'll just put it out there. Virginia Lynchburg is going to play at Alcorn. Should there be a concern, and as one listener said, he would like to see a fine for playing NAIA schools on the schedule. How, in your opinion, how do you think that would fly within your brethren of athletic directors in the conference?
Now, putting a fine on them, that'll never happen as it relates to that, because those NAIA schools, most of them are schools that once, you got to realize Southern University was an NAIA school. And so at the end of the day is that those are the schools also that we need to help our coaches as well. When you say LSU or high major, they gonna beat them, they paying a game. Yeah, that's strategic to make sure you can come in and get some kids reps that haven't played, get them ready. Play some people, rest some people, get people ready. You can get a chance where you got a game in season where you can evaluate all your guys and your younger guys as well. There's also in place for us at the end of the day is that when we don't have the ability to find a Division I school, then those schools are the next pool of schools that we look at to help fill our schedule. And so to be transparent, we didn't have that ability this year. We was fighting because our schedule and trying to get the 5 for next year and how bad our schedule put us in a bad fix before we came in. You're talking about 3 home games. So you're going to go play a team that's not going to come to you, and you're going to go play them at their place again just to fill your schedule. I'd rather bring those type of teams in and let Coach Odoms get ready to evaluate his guys and what he needed at that time and not get broken up and stuff like that as well. And so those schools, are very much in play for us. You see, as it relates to basketball, we go out and we play people for money. Then they're doing the same thing at their level because early on a team want to play, a high major want to play us in basketball because they feel like at the end of the day they can beat us and get themselves ready and learn their team. So it's the same thing for us at our level. That's the level that we have to turn to. But being mindful that, you still have to watch out because some of those schools got really good programs and they still can come in and surprise you, Langston, and make a game for you and beat you. So you just have to be aware of that. So that's not going anywhere. That's part of our scheduling formula that's needed for a lot of different reasons from our landscape. And they have a place as it relates to the NCAA giving us a right that in our schools that we could play those type of schools. So I don't see that going anywhere, and we need that in place. And a lot of those schools try to move up from NAIA to Division I levels, and you can see most of the NAIAs usually probably would play Southern back in the days and was all in the same conferences. So we have to be careful of how we suggest those NAIA schools are.
Can I make a suggestion? Went
Yes,
to
sir.
Salem State, Bowie State for the Pete Richardson Classic.
Those suggestions was great. We tried to get Winston-Salem State in here, but what you see, what you want all the time, it don't really work out that way because we thought that'd be a great game. But for scheduling reasons, for money reasons, how much they wanted us to pay them, which I think was a observed amount of money that we couldn't come up with. So all that go to play when you start talking about these schools.
Yeah.
And so which I would love for Tuskegee, Winston-Salem, because I think that at the right time, our fans would like that type of game as well. But it don't necessarily match up schedule-wise and year-wise and all that. That's a tough formula to have. And so a lot of time what we want, we don't necessarily be able to get.
On that note, 2 quick points. On your overtime series, tell the fans who may be listening for the first time or don't know anything about it, what's the overtime series, and then 2021 football schedule. I've heard about Troy State. Is it possible that you can give us a clue about the rest of that schedule? I know you're probably working on it.
Yeah, we're working on that schedule, and that schedule is almost complete, but we still, like I say, at the end of the day, a lot of things in pencil we don't have in ink. And, I like to make sure, as I have conversations out aloud and in public, make sure that we're saying the right thing. So I like to come back on the show to get ready to talk about that once I have a couple more signed contracts in place, because when you got it going today, you think it's going to happen, then all of a sudden it changes the next day. And so I don't like going back and forth. I like dealing with the absolute.
Well, I know any better, I'd say you were a former basketball coach. but the overtime series.
The overtime series, that's the Party with the Purpose campaign. We thought about it when I came in that we had to generate other ancillary events around it that we can generate revenue because our budget just don't get it. So there's a lot of things that we're doing. And this is one that has grown and popped off very well. The overtime series, it started because back in the day, you used to go teams, we travel, we go places, and Jaguar fans, socialize in the hotel in one location. So the overtime series was based on those old days principles. So now, we go to different places when we go out of town, and we try to get that alumni base that's there involved with that. And we generate, we have a small cost to come in and party with a purpose. But also, when I say that, it's more to get them inclusive with athletics. They get a chance to coach different coaches, different sports be there. I'm there as director of athletics. A lot of time the president is there, and we get a chance to be close to our fans. People get a chance to walk up, take pictures with you, and then you get a chance to learn to ask some personal questions to coaches of myself that you like to do. And for us to give us a chance to get the information where you see us intimate, that we're hoping to build a relationship that you'll want to continue to donate and support our student athletes initiatives. And that's what it's all about. And so this year, these things are pretty fun for our fans. We know we got a overtime series crowd that just follow that. And so overtime will be at Club 44 right in Championship Square, Champion Square, right there, right by the stadium where the big screen at the pre-party and stuff will be. Come over right out the game, walk in, and be able to come in and meet the coaches and have a good time. We got Rick and Sasha of the morning show going to co-host it this year with me, along with some of our coaches, and along with Avery Johnson going to be in. And so we hope to have a couple more celebrities to come in. This is the Bayou Classic and want to have a good time with us. We also have a lot of our peers, athletic directors that work at other schools that's coming to the game, and we invited, to come in to the overtime series and tease them a little bit about how good Southern is and we the number one place. But, I think that's what it's all about. And so I'm asking everybody, you can go to gojazzsports.com and click on that link, or you can come to the ticket office, or call the ticket office. We got tickets on sale in the ticket office. Ticket office number is 225-771-3171. That's for the overtime show tickets. You can go online in person. We did have discount tickets out there for the first 100. I think they were $15. As I know, we met on yesterday, and there was a few of them left. And so you have to go online to get those tickets. And I know that they're selling well out the box office. So come on in and meet all of us and party with a purpose. Come in, let us get your information so we can put you on what I call our fan list. And not just a fan, but a supporter list. You'll be getting information from us, and you get to know personal information from me as we sell out mail outs and all those things about Jaguar athletics. And I think it'll answer a lot of your questions.
Well, Coach Banks, appreciate the time as always. Look forward to talking with you again real soon, especially when some I's are dotted and some T's are crossed. That football schedule. And by the way, tell Coach Woods, boy, close last night, huh? Overtime to Nebraska. Yeah. So a new team, basically. So it looks like Coach Woods is working hard. And can't forget about Coach Funches and the women's basketball team. We appreciate all that they do and look forward to getting to see them.
Volleyball is playing. Volleyball, the conference tournament is in Urbana, so at Mississippi Valley, and so we're excited about that. We went in as the 4th seed, so all our teams have moved up, and I won't apologize for it. The teams know that I think that all our teams need to be in the top 4 in our league, and I think that I always give you a chance to win in that order of finish. We won't apologize for it. I want to apologize for putting that pressure on myself and our athletic department. I think we got the fan support that deserves that. I know you're not going to have a great year each year, but that's the continuity and the challenge that I want to challenge our coaches, and they're stepping up to the plate, doing a good job with it. So Sean off and running. You know, I wish we could have made the shot to win the game in regulation. We missed it and ended up losing in overtime. And so I'm excited to see what Vanessa does today with volleyball. And so I think we're on the right path. My expectations is to help get these facilities. And those overtime serious money goes to facilities, Title IX projects, and all those things that state dollars don't let us do. So that's why it's important that not only we be a fan, you become a supporter, because we need that type of effort for longevity for me to continue to do some things to improve our facilities. I mean, soccer need a locker room. I can go down the line and talk about a lot of those things. And so, this will help not Roman Banks, but this helps Southern University athletics.
Well, Coach, transparency, keep being that way. It can only help. And boy, what a good problem to have if it works out to be Southern hosting SWAC football championship. Boy, unbelievable.
We need to be pulling for Jackson State today, right?
Well, Coach, everybody knows about Jackson State. But
I answer that question to see because Alcorn have to lose, and so Alcorn have to lose. We need to win, huh? Yeah. So what your heart at today? Who you pulling for?
I got to pull for Jackson State.
All right. Well, you pull.
Oh, that hurts my heart. But look, Southern has to host. It would be great to host a championship. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, Southern can host that championship. Yeah, there, I said it, Coach.
That'd be nice for it. That's the only reason. But you got to out because that's the only reason why. So you good with that?
All right. Thanks for the time. We'll talk real soon, Coach.
Thank you all. Look forward to doing this again pretty soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. We went a little long, but we had to. You got to roll with talking with Coach Banks. Charles Edmond coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I want to thank Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University, for joining me. Now to our SWAC football report. It's going to be an interesting ball game in Jackson, Mississippi. I just had to say I'm pulling for Jackson State. Oh, did that hurt? Did that hurt? Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network joins me. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. I'd hang up on you right now.
Hey, I've got to have Southern with an opportunity to host that championship. It's business. It's nothing personal. It's business.
Oh, yes, it is. And I tell you what makes what we're going through right now with the championship game and the format with it being on campus, you know, it adds another layer to it. Not only winning your division, but potentially, possibly playing the host the championship game on your campus. So, you know, the Braves have some work to do. I mean, yeah, they scratched off one off their bucket list. They won the division. Now they want to have the championship game, as Fred McMahon likes to say, on their own grass, which will happen if we win today. So that's you know, we got another one on our bucket list to check off, but it's not going to be easy. Jackson State has beaten us before in this position where they've had nothing to play for, and we won the division, wrapped it up, gone to Houston, and yet they kind of spoil our end of the season. So we've been through this drill before, and we hope we don't have to go through it again today.
Boy, sometimes it's all about matchups. Southern has struggled against Alcorn State, but they've had a tremendous advantage against Jackson State. Jackson State has had more success against Alcorn than Southern University. So, before we get to the games of the week and the conference schedule, which is light this week, let's, if we can, look back to last week. Alcorn State, they take care of Alabama A&M 34-28, but boy, a lot of drama in that game. I heard that Coach Maynard didn't use timeouts properly, then a call in the back of the end zone. Tell us, how did it all end up at the end of that ball game?
Well, the first point that you made is absolutely true. They got inside our 15-yard line, and instead of just spiking it, which would have probably saved 7 or 8, maybe 9 seconds, they look over at the sideline. They're kind of confused, and then they burn the timeout. But they still get a couple of plays, and then the call in the back of the end zone. Obviously, when the back judge throws his hat, that means the receiver has gone out of bounds around the back of the end zones and has come back in, and you can't be the first one to touch the football. So out of all of that, you know, eventually when the dust settled, it was the correct call. I think they went back and reviewed it to see if there was maybe have been a second left, maybe for one more play, but that, as it turned out to be, it was not the case. The game lived up to its billing. I was not surprised at the back and forth. I was not surprised at the score. I was not surprised at the fact that A&M, you could knock them down, but just couldn't knock them out. You know, we missed a field goal down the stretch, which gave them one more opportunity, and it darn near pulled it off again. So, you know, the Braves winning the game at home was terrific, but the way the game played out, definitely not a surprise on my part. The way A&M has just been able to pick themselves up off the mat all year long.
You know, looking at some of the statistics, what I was shocked by, it seems like last week in the state of Mississippi, run defense was non-existent. Southern and Jackson State, and lo and behold, Jordan Bentley, 245 yards rushing against Alcorn State. All of the talk now on social media is, watch out, Alabama A&M, they're right there. Are they a contender heavily for next year?
Well, they're going to have Akil Glass, their quarterback, coming back. Jordan Bentley's gone, thank goodness. I don't want to see him again. I mean, 240 yards rushing. I mean, he was a beast. I mean, and that's the Jordan Bentley that I'm sure A&M's been waiting to see for 4 years. He's been hurt. He's been hurt off and on throughout his career, but you saw how healthy he was. But they still have Akil Glass coming back. They've got some of their receivers coming back. But like other teams in the league, they're going to have to prove their defense if they want to get to that next level. I mean, their defense, not as bad as previews, but at the same time, they gave up a lot. And, so when you think about it, I mean, we scored, 45 points on Prairie View's defense. We scored 34 against, Alabama A&M. I mean, I guess you could call it a wash. But I think for what I saw from A&M's defense, they can get off the field when their backs are against the wall. With Prairie View's defense, I just didn't see that when we played them early in the season.
Well, there's motivation for next season. Prairie View and Alabama A&M they mirror each other in a way. But like I said, it seems like in the state of Mississippi last week, run defense was non-existent. But elsewhere in the conference, Florida State over Alabama State, 49-12. Wow. I guess that's a payday game. But, boy, that late in the season, I guess you either play them the first game or you play them toward the end.
Well, I mean,
I'm not a director of athletics. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, you know that the whole talk this week has been about scheduling and scheduling down. That's what I would not have done this late in the season for sure. I mean, even though Florida State is not the Florida State that we all know, you know, they're barely visible in the FBS landscape right now. They just fired their coach, paid them $17 million to go away. You still don't schedule a school like that this late in the season. You schedule them early. So that could be another topic of conversation as well. You know, if you're going to play those teams, you want to play them early, maybe midway part of the season. But nonetheless, Alabama State got a decent payday. And I didn't realize this, Carlos, from Montgomery to Tallahassee is not that far, maybe 4-hour drive, 4.5. So if the expenses weren't all that great. So I think it was a win for Alabama State in the ball, even though it was a loss on the field.
Yeah, well, and that they did. Florida State over Alabama State 49-12. The hottest team in the conference right now, your alma mater, Grambling State University over Mississippi Valley State, 40-0. It was Prairie View A&M, 41 points. Edward Waters 14, and then the other co-game of the week, Southern University over Jackson State, 40-34. And Charles, that game was just chippy. Before the game, during the game, I've just come to the conclusion, once again, I was reminded that Southern and JSU just don't like each other. They don't like each other.
No matter what's at stake or what's not at stake. I mean, you're absolutely right. That's just one of those rivalries where, you know, it's just as you described. And I didn't think it was really, I mean, just from my perch, and I don't have a dog in the fight, I didn't think it was that heated and that intense. But obviously it is, regardless of what's at stake. I mean, there's going to come a time in which Southern and Jackson will play and the game won't count somewhere down the line in the schedule. Question is, will they play? I hope they do, because I think it's good football, is what we saw last week, even though there's no love lost between the two teams. But I didn't realize it was that much of bad blood at this point in time, but obviously it is.
Yeah. So separation before the game, cooler heads prevailed. Even the mascot during the halftime. You know how the Tigers run to the goalpost? And I think Southern was imitating one of that, and the JSU mascot lowered the boom on that person. Both fan bases are alike to me. They really are, and they get after each other. But Southern's able to win again. I think it's 6 or 7 years in a row. 7 games in a row, Southern over Jackson State. Go figure. But that's how it ended up last week in the conference. Were you surprised that it was, or let me put it this way, was it the kind of game that you expected between Southern and Jackson State?
Yeah, it was. I think Jackson State has kind of found their offensive rhythm a little bit because they have found their quarterback. And I think when you look at what Jackson did early in the season, the musical chairs, playing 2 or 3 quarterbacks early in the season, that didn't work. I think they have their quarterback, the guy that I thought that probably should have been playing long before now, should have been the guy. And I kind of figured, an athlete like Jones, D1 transfer, FBS transfer, you can't keep that kid off the field. He's too good of a talent. And I knew that eventually he would probably be the guy. And he's got some years left under his belt at Jackson State. It's just a matter of when you get him on the field in the right situation. And, it's going to be a learning curve. I mean, clearly he's going to make some mistakes. But if Coach Hendrick doesn't panic and yank him, like Coach Odom did with Skelton and McDaniel, and what Coach Fobbs has done with his 2 quarterbacks, if you stick with your guy and understand that they're going to make mistakes, and you still have to coach them up and teach them up and continue to work with them, they'll work through those kind of mistakes, and they'll get better. So I think Jackson State's found their quarterback, but their defense is funnily. Hendricks is going for his defense. That's the reason why he got the job last year, taking over for Coach Hughes. The offense has improved, but the defense needs a lot of work, and I think that's something that Coach Hendricks will have to work on in the offseason.
Well, and to today's game, what are some of your concerns if you're Alcorn State and you're going against your defense against a guy now that seems to be more comfortable with the offense? He's a legitimate dual threat, threw for 224 yards, ran for over 100 yards. and boy, the running back over 100 yards. What would be your concerns if your coach McNair going to this ball game today against Jackson State?
Well, I think for the first time in a few years, I think that the key matchup is how is Cedric Thornton's defense going to match up with Jackson State's offense, which now has an offense. There's been two problems with Jackson State over the years: finding a quarterback that can manage the game and be a serviceable guy, and a lack of a running game. Jackson State hasn't had a solid running game probably in 10 years. I think they've got that now. So you add that dynamic. I think Jackson State's going to try to do what Alabama A&M and what Prairie View has done. They all watch film. So that's the matchup I'm kind of interested in. It's a windy day here, and kicking might be an issue on this wet field. It rains basically all night long here, so field conditions might not be the greatest. So, how you protect the football is going to be important today as well. But my matchup is going to be this Braves defense, which got a couple of key turnovers against Alabama A&M last week. Glass was veteran presence through two bad interceptions last week. You got to get to Jones. You got to keep him in the pocket. You got to have a guy on him, and once he gets in open field, he can make some things happen. So that's kind of the matchup. I think offensively, we're going to be without two of our running backs today. Deshaun Waller's going to be out again. He was out last week, and Turner's going to be out again. One of our number 3 backs. So we're down to 3 running backs. We got an injury on the back end of our defense, so we are banged up. But I think our offense is going to be fine. I think if we run the football, make it manageable for Felix Harper, I think our offense will be fine. And I think if the Braves get it in the mid to upper 20s, I don't know if Jackson State can go toe to toe with us point for point like A&M and Prairie View did.
And it's interesting because looking at the statistics last week, Alcorn gave up over 500 yards.
Yep.
A total offense. Alabama A&M. And one of the discussions I was having with someone on social media, I thought last year Alcorn State's defense was better than this year. Am I way off base on that, or would you agree with that?
We are thinner on defense. One of our interviews for our pregame was with Coach Frenchers, our D-line coach. He did indicate, and even our defensive coordinator, Cedric Thornton, told me early in the year, we're not quite as deep, and we don't have the veteran presence that we've had in years past. Last year we had a kid, Sterling Shippey, who turned pro and went with the Colts.
Yeah.
We just don't have the same pieces that we've had, but they're young, they're hungry, they want to learn, and they're going to get better with meaningful reps, and they're getting that right now. So I would agree with you. If you look at the 2 highest scoring teams in the league, Alabama A&M and Prairie View, both of those teams lived up to the billing. Southern at the time that we played them, was still trying to figure out with their quarterback situation, and I think that kept the scoring down in that game, even though the Braves kind of raced out to a big lead. And of course, Grambling is a team that just doesn't score a lot of points, even though they did against Valley. I think it's kind of a little misleading. But Grambling relies on the defense. So it's kind of a different dynamic with some of these teams in the conference now.
Yeah, matchups as well. One team matches up well against one team and not as well against another team. The rest of the schedule in the conference looks like this: Mississippi Valley State at Alabama A&M. Of course, Alcorn State at Jackson State, and UAPB at Texas Southern. This Alabama A&M team, they're at home. Some disappointing losses as of late. You think they're up for the challenge against Mississippi Valley State, or could this be I wouldn't want to say a trap game, but just an emotional game that maybe Alabama A&M may not just be there emotionally?
I think it's going to be tough emotionally. I think a lot of that emotion was left on our field last week. I think it is going to be tough initially, but I think Coach Maynard's been around the block long enough to know you still got a game to play and you still got to finish strong. And I think they will. I think once they wake up and get over the funk of last week's game, I think they'll be fine. I don't know if Valley has enough pieces on both sides of the ball to really keep up with Alabama A&M. I do expect A&M to win the game. And look, I think when you look back on this season, for every team, I think if some teams had a do-over, if there was one game that you would have a do-over, obviously the A&M lost to Alcorn, knocked them out, but they had an early season loss to UAPB that's kicking them in the tail right now. You look at Alabama. You look at Jackson State, for example. Jackson, the last 2 games, have had 2 losses, which they probably could have won. But if you have a do-over, for me, for Jackson State, it's not those 2 games. I go back to homecoming here against Alabama State with their third-string quarterback. That loss really is kicking them in the tail, right? Kicking them in the tail right now. If they win that game the way it plays out, this game will be for the division title. So, I mean, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I mean, we all talk about it, but it didn't happen, and you just have to play it out. And that's why these games are so important, especially when you're at home. You just cannot lose on your home field and expect to win the division most years. It's probably that loss is probably going to come back and get you.
Yeah, and I even think about Jackson State and that Alabama A&M shootout. I'm looking at the scores, and Jackson State was like, hey, they're about to pull it off, and then they lose late. Man, I think that kind of – and then the following week against Southern University, and they would like nothing better than to go out with a victory to finish off this season. UAPB at Texas Southern. Texas Southern still winless. I'm not going to say the best winless team in the country. They need a win. They need it badly. Can they get it against UAPB, who has really now fallen off after such a promising early part of the season? Wasn't expected to do much. How you see this ball game going?
This is where you find out where your coaching really comes in, and I think Cedric Thomas is kind of prepared for this. I think his team will be ready to play. I'm not saying Texas Southern has thrown in the towel. It's been a tough season. There was a moment there a few weeks ago where you thought that TSU might be, after the top been spinning in all kinds of different directions, you felt like they were going in a direction. But obviously a couple of setbacks. I mean, it's kind of expected for the first-year coach still trying to figure out what he's got and what he doesn't have. I think UAPB will be ready, and I'm going to go with UAPB in this game.
And then let's not forget Thursday, Turkey Day, Prairie View, Alabama State. That should be an interesting ball game. Defense against offense.
That one, I think for Alabama State, it's probably more at stake because it's the Turkey Day game. They're used to playing Tuskegee on Turkey Day. It'll be interesting to see, going forward, what their opponents are going to be. Is it going to be Tuskegee? Is it going to be a SWAC team but playing on Thanksgiving Day? I think Bama State's built for that. I don't think Prairie View is. Not saying that Prairie View is giving up. I know there's some heat on Dooley a little bit. I think he'll be fine. But I do think Alabama State's going to win this game at home.
Well, I think Coach Dooley would love to come in on Turkey Day and spoil all the turkey, the dressing. I was going to say the turducken, but I don't know if they like that in Montgomery. And turkey. Boy, I tell you, he smiles and he has that sheepish look about him, but he's boy. I tell you what, I think he's. If I didn't know any better, I think he was related to Coach Billy Joe. He'll cut you quickly.
Yeah.
That's gonna be an interesting game, though. I think Prairie View they want to end on a good note. And by the way, I think I saw Texas Southern playing in the Turkey Day Classic next year. I thought I saw that when they released their schedule. Texas Southern at Alabama State. But I think Prairie View's going to pull it out, believe it or not. I think they have enough offense, of course, and I think their defense will try to send an early message going into spring practice.
Yeah, I saw a Facebook video of in-laws on Thanksgiving, and one in-law was upset with another one, and the one that was ticked off flipped the whole Thanksgiving table, turkey dressing and all. He flipped the table over.
Wow. Come on.
Yeah. And so I think Coach Dooley would love nothing more than to go to Montgomery. They got the Thanksgiving set up, the turkey and dressing and all the fixings, and flip that table over right there at Hornet Stadium. I'm sure he would love to do that.
I'm telling you, I think they're going to be ready for this traditional game and their first time participating in it. Yeah, I think Prairie View is going to pull it out. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, quickly, Alcorn State, boy, a lot of discussion on social media about the schedule. And as when they release the schedule, as I text you earlier in the week, all of the schools in the conference, they're guilty of playing those type of teams. You can't really point at this school. You point 2 fingers, 3 are coming back at you. You have to decide as a conference, do you want to keep those type of games off the schedule? And listen to Coach Banks, don't hold your breath on that one. And then the conversation about the MEAC a little bit better than the Southwest Athletic Conference. Your thoughts on Alcorn's schedule as we wrap up this segment?
Well, Ken Rashad is the one that kind of threw it out there with his podcast. I talked to Ken Rashad the other night. We had a pretty good conversation. Ken Rashad's a classmate of mine, so I could pick up the phone and call him. Look, Ken might be on the outside looking in. I'm on the inside looking out. Because I talk with our athletic director, and I know other ADs. And an AD's job is tough. They have a couple of factions they have to satisfy. They have to satisfy their administration, their president and CFO, try to make money. And then on the other side, they've got to put a schedule that's going to be pleasing to the head coach in order for the head coach to succeed. So in order for that to happen, it's a tough balance. And then you have to please fans a little bit too, because fans want to be able to go to games in which, they're not far away. So I think ADs have a very tough schedule, a tough job to do. And I think playing these games, and look, the FBS schools are doing it. Alabama's going to play a Murray State, give them $1 million and beat them 80-0. They're doing it. Other schools are doing it. The MEAC's doing it. I mean, everybody's doing it. And I understand the commissioner's point, but the commissioner can't mandate it, though. He's strongly against it. He can't stop it. And I don't see it happening anytime soon, because if you can get a win, pay a school $50,000 to come to your place, pay a few hotel rooms, and get a win on your homecoming or whatever the case, and make your fans feel good for that week, that's something that you have to do. You have to bite the bullet on that one. And I think every school in our league's doing it, whether it's Virginia Lynchburg, whether it's Faith, or whether it's another school, another one of those church schools that they say. Everybody's doing it. Do I think it's going to stop? No. I think the commission is going to strongly discourage it. And look, we're going to be talking about these schedules for years to come, because now that the Masters SWAC schedule's out, our schedule's out early. It's the earliest our schedules come out. Texas Southern's put out their schedule. Southern's put out their schedule. Other schools put out their schedule for AVU. So I think we're going to be chewing on these schedules for the next several years, because they're going to be released way ahead of time, and we can agree or disagree on whether or not we should be playing down as far as we are. I don't think it's going to change much. And our athletic director, Derek Horn, said, hey, you've got to do what you've got to do. And I think other ADs, if they're going to be honest with you, will probably say the same thing, that they've got to do what they got to do to get their coach an easy one, a win, to make their coach feel good, to make the players feel good about what they're doing, make the fans feel good about where the program is for that moment. And then, the expense of paying them a few pennies, bringing them to your campus, the exposure, that can help too. But, an AD's job is tough. The scales are tough to balance, and I understand why they're doing it, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, I would say this. Putting one team on that schedule versus putting 2, like a couple of teams did this year, wow. That is not good. But, hey, had Coach Banks on, and some in social media had talked about maybe placing a fine on teams that has those type of schedules. Coach Banks said it won't happen. It won't. Yeah. I don't think they would have they wouldn't get the votes to do it.
Yeah, and I think what it also shows, we've had 9-game schedule, we've had a 7-game schedule, now we're at an 8-game schedule. I don't think any AD will publicly admit it, but I also believe for some ADs and some schools, it's still tough to fill out a schedule. It's still tough to put an 11-game schedule together, even though you've got 8 conference games that you know that you got. Now you can play some other conference teams that won't count to kind of help fill your schedule out. But I think it still shows if you're playing more than one of those type schools. I mean, next year we got Lynchburg and Fort Valley. Next year, and I think other schools are kind of doing some similar stuff. I think it still shows the difficulty of still trying to fill out your schedule. You know, you want to play, you know, for me, and I think, Carlos, you would agree, you may want to play down once, want to play up once, maybe a respectable FBS like a New Mexico State, and then you want a FCS opponent like a Northwestern State or Sam Houston. That would be an ideal situation, I think, for everyone, and I think that helps the conference. And for the commissioner, he's looking at trying to get a team in the FCS playoffs. I think that's the other thing too. I think that's the other thing that Ken's talking about. Like if we want to get a seat at the table in the FCS playoffs as an at-large, I think the best thing we can do is play a quality schedule from top to bottom throughout the conference. And do I see that happening? No, I don't. You know, you have one school in our league that doesn't offer the maximum scholarships in terms of playing an FBS school. That's why they don't play an FBS school. I'm not going to call the name. You can kind of figure it out. And so when you have that going on plus other dynamics, I think it makes it tough to get a team in the FBS playoffs. But the commissioner wants to improve the profile of the league, and the only way to do that is to avoid playing those type of schools. Do I see it happening anytime soon? No. Is he going to strongly discourage it? Yes. Is it going to stop anything? You know, we all love the commissioner. You know, his voice matters. Is it going to change anything right now? Probably not.
Well, I'm sure this will be discussed after the show. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a hot topic on social media.
Yes.
And we'll continue to have the discussion. Charles, have a great broadcast today. Alcorn State at Jackson State. Plenty at stake for Alcorn to win, and they simply host the SWAC football championship. A loss, then it's between Grambling, Louisiana, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, hosting the SWAC football championship. Charles, you know I'll go nuts if there's opportunity to host the championship. I bet you I'll find some energy then. You might see me. The water has went down on the back of the campus, but
look, the other thing is now that's only one part of it. I know you're going to be pulling for Alcorn, but Southern's got to take care of Grambling next week. That's going to be one we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, that's what I said. Either it'll be in Grambling or Southern. But now, Baton Rouge, Grambling, Louisiana. From a party standpoint, which some people may not give a damn about, one is a little bit more suitable than the other. But, hey, Grambling fans are going to be wanting a chance to host in the hole. The hole or on the river or on the reservation.
Well, I'll say this, Carlos. On one, if we go to if we don't win this game and go to Baton Rouge, I got two words: Tony Seafood. and if we play at Grambling, I got two other words: Landry Seafood. It's a all you can eat seafood place outside of Ruston. So hey, I don't want to go.
Which one is better?
I like Tony. You can't go wrong with Tony Seafood.
Wow. Oh, boy. We shall see. Still a lot left to play for in this. Just been a wild season in Black college football. Have a great broadcast. We'll talk with you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. That was Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Let me see. Brandon B.J. Jones up next to close out this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Are you one of the many Americans that deal with the effects of diabetes? Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
Chris, Can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work. There's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this final segment of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard it exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. And for those of you who are getting after me because I said I'm pulling for Jackson State over Alcorn, yeah. It's business. It's business. Let me welcome in Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Brandon, good morning / afternoon to you.
Well, good morning, Carlos. How's it going?
I'm a tired man. I'm not youthful like you. I need to be energized, but hey, last week that Southern Jackson State game, my goodness, DJ, you went down there trying to keep the teams apart in pregame, huh?
Yeah, man, it was interesting. Jackson State, Southern Jackson State, I tell people, this is an intense route, and it's different than Southern and Grambling. Southern Grambling is more family, it's brother on brother, but for Jackson State and Southern, there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of I don't like you in it. And it started from not even pregame warm-up, just guys walking the field, and you had a little kerfuffle, if you will, that took part. And that intensity lasted from that point through pregame walkthrough all the way through the fifth quarter with the Rams. And it was just amazing just to see the animus between the two schools.
Well, and their fan base, I've said over the years, they're just alike. They're cocky, they're arrogant, and even the band competition. My goodness! But at the end of the day, we still must remember HBCU. And sometimes we'll have to agree to disagree, but you're absolutely right. The tension was thick. You can cut it with a knife.
Yep, that was it. For the ball game, I think that it was the tale of two halves for Southern University. Southern University, the second half, if you go back and look at it, gave up 24 points in the first half. Over 300 yards of total offense. Mm-hmm. Came back in the second half, and before that last drive by Jackson State, gave up 3 points, 71 yards of total offense, and only 3 first downs.
And you're absolutely right, BJ. And in the back of my mind all season, this thought has been in the back of my mind. I put it there and try not to have it come up to the front. Put it in long-term memory, not short-term. But if Southern's defense, and their rush defense was gashed, if that were to happen, we know the shortcomings in the back end, the pass defense. Could Southern's offense find a way to get it done? I guess they answered it in that ball game. Albeit the second half, Southern's defense played much better. But had that thought kind of weighed in your mind this season with Southern University?
Yeah, because the defense, if you look at them all year, they've had a lot of pressure on them, just because, especially the run defense, because the back half really hadn't been strong, and then offensively, up until recently, you didn't know what you were going to get. You didn't know if offensively you could generate enough points to win a shootout. But I will say the silver lining from last week, most of those runs came on 4 separate runs. 2 long runs by the running back, 2 long runs by Jalen Jones. Mm-hmm. And on those runs, if you look at it, there was a poor angle by the safety that really broke it. Two linebackers on 2 of those long runs reaching with one arm, just things that you can't have at this portion of the season when we start talking about championship football, putting yourself in contention to host or play in the SWAC championship game and a possible trip to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. Can't do that.
And to your point, for the most part, run defense has been pretty good. Bentley, you heard of that name. You've seen him play. 71 yards against Southern. 245 against Alcorn. That's just, I don't know. Things are, in the next few weeks, you'll be able to tell some things. Some teams may not be as good defensively as we thought, and we can look back to the stats, and then which team is hot. Just reminds me of Alabama and them in the Alcorn State football game. Your thoughts on that ball game, which Alabama and them gotta feel real bad. They've been close, but no cigar in several games this year.
Yeah, I mean Alabama and them. We're talking about defenses. Southern and Alcorn had 2 of the top defenses. We're talking about from a yardage standpoint in the league, and both of them were gashed last week. Mm-hmm. Who saw Jordan Bentley putting up that amount of yardage on Alcorn on the ground? We haven't seen that Alcorn defense get gashed on the ground like that in quite some time. We felt like if Akil Glass were to have a big day, then there goes Alabama A&M. But Akil Glass had 0 touchdown passes last week and 2 interceptions. Just an amazing game between Alcorn State and Alabama A&M. And you hate the way it ended with Alabama A&M. Kid catches the touchdown, but he runs out of bounds, and then it's a legal touching type situation. I mean, you just felt bad for Alabama A&M because had they had pulled that off, it would have sent a seismic shift through the entire conference.
Yeah. And now, if you're hoping for a Jackson State victory today against Alcorn, boy, the Alabama A&M game could have given you the same effect times 4.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was an interesting week last weekend. Now, if I can, the Florida Classic in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, the Eagle Aggie rivalry with North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T. My question to you is, Mr. Jones, Bethune-Cookman has had FAMU's number. Does that streak end today?
If you're a FAMU fan, you hope it does. It's been 8 years in a row. I mean, it has been, and last year was heartbreaking. You remember FAMU going in, taking the lead, and then you throw a 97-yard pick six. And, oh, man, and that was the difference between FAMU going to the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean,
it had a couple opportunities, and that was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a FAMU fan, if you're wearing that Rattler orange and green, you hope that this is the end of it. You've had a wonderful season. You finally ended the streak against South Carolina State, who you hadn't beaten since 2001. You got that monkey off your back. Now you got one more monkey to get off your back. And if you're FAMU, you want to win because there's still a chance that you have publications If FAMU wins this ball game, who will still name FAMU Black College Football National Champs for this season. So you want to add this game to your resume if you're FAMU. You don't want to leave any doubts. You got to go in and take care of it.
Interesting. Still will have them. Yeah. Celebration Bowl coming up, and then North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T. You see some strange things sometimes in this ball game, but one would think North Carolina A&T with a win, they'll still represent the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, even though they may have to share the MEAC title.
Yeah, I mean, odd things happened in this game between the Aggies and the Eagles. North Carolina Central hadn't had the best year. It's Trey Oliver's first year at the helm up there in Durham. And we've seen this before, where North Carolina Central comes in and no one gives them a chance, and the next thing you know, they're walking out of Greensboro with a victory. We saw Jerry Mack do it in 2014, 15, and 16 to North Carolina A&T. And North Carolina A&T, they don't play to the best of their ability week in and week out. Sometimes they will play to the abilities of the talent that they have on their roster, and sometimes you get games like the Morgan State game a few weeks ago where you're like, oh my God, who is this ball club? If you get a horrible effort today, don't be shocked to see North Carolina Central knock them off, because North Carolina Central played FAMU as tough as anybody. They only lost to FAMU by 7. North Carolina Central has talent. They're extremely young. If they hang around with this North Carolina A&T football team, you might get an upset in Greensboro.
And if that were to happen, South Carolina State then or Bethune-Cookman?
South Carolina State then would be, South Carolina State would be headed to Atlanta.
Wow. Interesting. Not as much. Would you say who has the most drama left? The SWAC scenario or the MEAC?
Well, I would say right now it's the MEAC, just because of everything that's on the line. Now, the SWAC still has a lot of drama left. You got drama in Jackson, Mississippi today. Alcorn trying to clinch home field, and you're going to have next week in the Bayou Classic, the Western Division title for the 4th year in a row come down between Southern and Grambling. I mean, this is the amazing time of the year. We wait all year for this, and now you're getting football games. When I say they really matter, they really matter. And the hardest thing to do in this game of football is to beat a team when you're in a clinching situation. It doesn't matter how bad that team has been all year. Somehow, when you're in that clinching situation, it feels like you're in the game for your life. So it's going to be interesting this week as well as next week.
I mentioned, and we're going to get to your top 5 poll, because in Black College Football I got 2 minutes left. I brought up, I think it was last week, about fatigue as far as I talked to some people who would like to see, they would just had their fist clutched. Could it possibly be FAMU and Southern in the Celebration Bowl last year? Do you think that's the possibility that some fatigue will sit in if A&T makes it back to the Celebration Bowl, which is a good chance, and let's say Alcorn makes it back? Or most people, it won't bother them. Long as they have a Celebration Bowl, that's a good thing no matter who plays.
I think the fatigue will come in from the casual fans, but talking to the North Carolina A&T fans this week, they're excited to head back to Atlanta. They have even started calling the Celebration Bowl the Aggie Invitational. They are.
If you want to change that, do something about it.
Yeah. So they are excited about it. And I'm pretty sure if Alcorn were to make it again, their fans will be there. And just as that, I think you get the burnout from people, the casual fan. But I always take this approach to it. If you want it to change, beat them. That's all you have to do. You just have to beat them. You got 60 minutes. You can put them on the 100-yard field. Just beat them. And then you won't have to worry about it.
That's Southern ends up winning it next week, and they end up going to Alcorn, hey, give me some more of that smoke again, I guess. Until you beat them, play them. And that's the way I look at it. Your top 5 quickly.
So for the top 5 this week, I have at 5, I have Grambling State University. 4, it's Southern University. 3, I have North Carolina A&T. At the 2 spot, I have the Alcorn State Braves. And at the 1 spot, I have the Rattlers of Florida A&M.
Those Snakes. I guess I'll get to see them next year in the Pete Richardson Classic. And guess what? I don't want to see a 97-yard drive to win it.
Oh, man.
I would literally shave my eyebrows. Think I'm already bald. And I'll have on the black sackcloth. Maybe red, because I don't feel like the devil. BJ, as always, appreciate you. Talk with you next week.
All right, Carlos. Always a pleasure.
All right. Brandon BJ Jones, HBCU Game Day. I want to thank Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University, and Charles Edmond, and, of course, the good doctor, Brother Michael Prince. What we learned today, Coach Prince says Southern is not his second favorite team, but we know that's not true. He says Valley, but we know that's not true. I want to thank him for producing today's show. Make sure you tune in next Saturday for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right here, heard exclusively on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. And until the next time, as always, peace and God bless.